Welcome to the second video on strategy and road mapping. This particular video today is about the commercial approach. So that means you're approaching your sustainability strategy and road mapping through your existing commercial strategy. So let's dive right in. So there's an assumption here that you've already got your plan and you're like, okay, how do we make this sustainable? How do we have sustainability as a presence in all of the things that we do? So there's some information going in. The first thing is that you have to have a vision. There's no vision, there's no start to this. The second thing is a commercial strategy, so you need both those two things. This exercise is also going to force you to prioritize what must have your attention. So if your strategy has an equal weight across all the things that leadership has to see, this is not going to work. Or you're going to see how this approach works because not everything is of the same equal importance at the same time. And secondly is that within this approach, there's two ways of doing it. Both of them imply current best practices are going to be applied. So when we go through this, it means that you're baselining, you're still going to be doing measurement, you're still going to be doing training, you're still going to be doing governance on both. Okay, so let's dive into those two different ways. We've got to wrap it, where you wrap sustainability around your commercial strategy, or you infuse it into the strategy. So the metaphor is kind of like a nice, warm, toasty burrito that's, the sustainability juices nurture the change into your commercial strategy. So wrapping it. And the second one is to infuse it where it changes everything. So the entire makeup of the company at the get-go gets changed really quickly. So it's a whole different product. So there are those two core ways that you start with. And here are the differences. So with wrapping it, the first thing is when it comes to your vision and your main messaging, so your brand promise, your marketing promise, is that the customer problem, solution, or vision is the main message. Whereas with Infuse It, sustainability is the main or equal part of messaging and vision. I'll give you an example very shortly, but even now, if you're selling soy sauce, you wouldn't have anything in your vision that says selling soy sauce in the world's most environmentally friendly way. It's maybe just we make the world's best dang soy sauce, period. And that might be your messaging. Whereas here you might have something like Patagonia, and I believe their vision or mission statement is to build the best product, cause no unnecessary harm, and use business to inspire and implement solutions to the environmental crisis. So it's front, bang, center. In fact, it's sort of like their main thing. Secondly is because of the messaging difference, it changes so much. The first thing is that there's going to be lower public visibility on the sustainability work that you do, and that affects your perception. So it just makes it look like you're not doing it because you never talk about it. It's not as part of your main message. Whereas with the infusion approach, there's higher public visibility, but there's also scrutiny that comes with it as well, because now you've set a really high bar and they're like, well, is this really more sustainable? And with the rapid approach, the change is implied to be incremental. It doesn't have to be. You could have it in the business running around. You just don't talk about it. You don't have it slap bang in the middle of your packaging and you're like, this is all about the environment. Whereas Infuse It definitely has a faster rate of change as an implication. And an assumption that we have here is that there's less short-term resistance because saying, oh, we got to do it. But, don't worry, not too many things are going to change. We're going to do things one thing at a time, do it well, okay, and expand on those things. Whereas with Infuse It, there's a change immediately because you're saying we're going to redo a lot of these things, our public messaging, a lot of that's going to shift. So at the start, you're going to have quite a bit of resistance, but in the mid to long term, people get used to it, people leave, you hire different people who share those values. So generally, this is the difference between these two different approaches. And of course, we have to explore the challenges and assumptions. With the rapid approach, you'll see on that list are some of the advantages that you would have thought you would have had with a rapid approach. So here, the less short-term resistance, that could just be a gigantic assumption, and you do get quite a significant short-term resistance because people might not think that you're doing enough, right? That comes with the greenwashing risk as well, because you're potentially greenwashing because you're not saying enough about it, because it's not all over your packaging, not on your vision, not on your mission, for example. And likewise with cultural resistance, assumption stability, which is where, because you think that you're not rocking the boat too much too quick, that things are going to be smooth sailing in the beginning. That might not be the case. And of course, a challenge is the limited public visibility. So people, in terms of top of mind, might look at you and your competitor side by side and go, well, I value that more. The fact that they seem to be more socially sustainable, I'll just spend an extra dollar and get that, right? So there is that level of risk, although you can manage that with your messaging as well. Anyway, the assumption about resistance could be quite broad, because there could be market resistance, which leads to the short-term assumption that the market wants sustainability, and that there might not be cultural resistance, whether that's with your customers or with your team. So for example, people don't exactly go rushing for gluten-free muffins. And using a real case as an example is with Allbirds, who for quite a while was seen as having not connected with their target audience. So even though they were made with more environmentally friendly materials, their board at the time and founders said, hey, we're going to lean into that messaging because we're assuming that's what people want. That's our vision. That's what the shoe is supposed to be. But they found that the hard way, that it turns out that that's not exactly what people were looking for. What they wanted first and foremost was comfort. And emails sent to customers touting environmental benefits of Allbirds shoes and clothing produced fewer sales and messages that prioritize comfort. It's hard to pick that apart because they started their main messaging about comfort and then shifted to sustainability, and people said, well, that's not how we know you. If you started off with that plus comfort, then that might have changed. But like he said here, customers will accept 1 degree of weirdness, but not 2. So speaking of which, of mixed messaging is with Bud Light, something you must have heard of. A disastrous campaign when they were leaning into the LGBTQ initiatives, and they essentially lost their existing customer bases and completely alienated their existing customer bases and just lost the customer base that they were trying to go for. And honestly, they should have leaned into whatever it is that they said they were going to do and protect the people. Not so much the people got fired, but the influencer, whether you like that person or not, got attacked online, and it was terrible for that person. So this is a classic case of what not to do in a PR crisis. So here's an example of a gym, a fitness brand, and their vision is to be the #1 health and fitness brand in region. And the metrics for that would be top of mind awareness, revenue streams, profitability measures. That's pretty straightforward. And the vehicle for that, so this is where the strategy begins. The theory is that we would do that through franchising as a vehicle. It could be through many things. You could just buy them all out yourself. But strategically for brands like this, franchising is great. Use that to gain market access, reach, economies of scale, typically a local partner who knows that market, that area, and through their money. So it makes it much faster. So metrics of that to see how that's going well is how many locations are in your country or other countries, right? And further on from strategy, so this is where you're starting to prioritize what are the key things that makes a gym work really well. So here's an example where there are 4 pillars operationally, strategically, that the leadership team needs to take a look at to ensure that it's going well. So for example, operational excellence. So that's ensuring there's things like mystery shopping and audits are done to make sure that that it's clean, that it opens on time, that things are put where they got to be put, classes are running well. That's one. And then membership goals, which is what their whole brand promise is about. So most gyms are saying, come here and we'll get you weight loss goals, fitness goals. You're trying to win a marathon? Great, come train here, get your muscles up and running or whatever, right? And strategically, this would solidify brand positioning while staying true to their vision. So we help you reach where you need to get. So operational excellence is something which the management leadership team must have their eye on. And likewise with the commitment to HR, because it's people that are running the gym, running the classes. So you can see how that links into this, and it tells the manager that these are the things that you're overseeing, but this is where really you need to keep your eye on. You want seriously fun people. So staff receiving high feedback scores from members and goals and mystery shopping, but they're also meeting their milestones in terms of, PDPM, so performance management, professional development. And strategically to manage this into operational goals, good succession planning. You're recruiting great public-facing talent. You got research talent, R&D, content creation, the source of member success. So all these things are areas that would feed into operational excellence that would then lead to this brand becoming the #1 fitness brand in their region. And likewise with brand positioning. I'm going to move on. This is all commercial stuff. Brand positioning, you'd measure that by top of mind awareness. You'd have a high net promoter score, people giving you 9, 10 out of 10s. You get franchising inquiries. That's how you know that you're on track. And in order to have great brand positioning, there's an operational excellence piece to it. But above all that is a commitment to communication, because you could do all these great things, but if you don't tell anybody anything, it's not going to change your brand positioning too much. So this is how we would measure it, and this is how you use it to increase your brand presence. And now we need to break down the brand position so people understand just 3 main things about what your brand is about. In this example, expertise, profitable in terms of fitness, profitable in terms of making money so that it can be franchisable. And you now need to deep dive further into the strategy and think about the kind of milestones that it would look like to reach your interpretation of what it means to be an expert, to be profitable in terms of fitness and in terms of fitness and business. So here for this example, brands by 2026, their experts and members are going to be regularly interviewed for their achievements, and like at least once per month. And to have gotten there, well, you need to have the year before have recruited guests, built these relationships, and before that probably have released a white paper so people go, yeah, we'll actually talk to you, you seem serious about this, right? And so this is how that 5-year planning looks like, is that you're taking a backcasting approach. You've got your vision, you've got your theory, and then you interpret that clearly to say this is exactly what that would look like. And then you break that down step by step to say, well, this is the things that we would need to do in order to reach here. And then you end up with a 5-year strategy with milestones that you need to take to get there. So this is a generic sort of work in progress framework for how a strategy is created. It's not obviously a final presentation. This is just building the strategy, building the roadmap, and then that gets interpreted into like a 1-year action plan for when you launch, the different campaigns that you're going to do, when you're going to do them as well. But that's not for the purposes of this video. So now we're going to look at the 2 approaches and how they kind of wrap or infuse into the commercial strategy. So both could end up looking like this new one where there are sustainability metrics and specific sustainability milestones in the 5-year planning. The difference is in the brand position, what you're actually saying as a brand. But first, what I'm going to do is start on a incremental kind of approach where it's less visible, and then we're going to go off and take a look at the change. And just remember that both are still baselining, what your current emissions are, what your current waste is, what's actually going on. They're measuring and adapting. There's governance, there's reporting, there's strategies, there's investment in actual change. They're doing training. There's metrics along each items of the strategy and the milestones. And you still have pillars or areas of excellence that you have dedicated to sustainability or dedicated to the business. So those things are all the same in both situations. So here, let's say that your strategy to your stakeholders, like your shareholders, looks more or less the same as a generic framework for strategy, but now you're interpreting what you mean by inclusive, for example. And in this instance, and this is sort of what I generally recommend, is that we're talking beyond gender and race. We really need to move past that. It shouldn't be so polarized. When we're talking about inclusion, we're talking about like everybody, right? So if you only have one target market, it's a business risk. And secondly, you're not scalable, right? Because you will eventually exhaust the market that you're currently using. If you want to sell more, you got to sell to different people. So what are the things that you can evolve your brand to be? So how this brand talks about inclusion is, of course, the people who can have access to healthcare, access to fitness on top of their existing offers. So typically it might just be, hey, I go to the gym for the gym floor. But a second program is going to be, for example, we want to offer fitness for kids because this is not so much of a thing yet. We want really great high performance stuff for children in very specific areas, like in hand-eye coordination, or for recovery for adults, or for introverts. People are just like, man, I really want to work out, but I don't do it at home. I really think I should go to a gym, but I'm so shy. So your gym might have an app to say, hey, if it's like less than 5 people at the gym right now, now's the time to come, right? So that's an example. One way of doing it is in the wrap it is in the interpretation of the milestones and the strategy that you have. The issue with that, like we mentioned earlier, is that there's less visibility about sustainability. So your team might not have sustainability top of mind, but they might be doing it really well because they just operate really well. So that's one risk that you're taking. And of course, a really important tip here is that as you're exploring these different programs and messaging and people and even products, is that you're experimenting and therefore you're taking calculated bets. And it's always, business is always calculated bets, because you don't know what the future exactly is going to look like. And also your customers sometimes don't know what they want. So even if they tell you in a survey that we want this, and then you put it out, no one actually uses it, well, that was an experiment. It failed. Move on to the next thing. Okay. So now we're looking at where sustainability is infused into the brand. And the first thing that changes is the vision. And here to be the #1 fitness brand in the region that also inspires a healthier community and a healthier planet. And that evolves everything else that happens. But the first thing that it changes is sustainability metrics, because now you have to start measuring what you mean by a healthier community and a healthier planet. So for example, healthier communities means metrics depending on what your values are. If it's all on people, it might be more community, social sustainability leaning. So you might be doing some pro bono work or offering whatever it is that you're doing in those geographic areas near your gyms, right? And ensuring that your supply chain due diligence is occurring and that the people who are selling you the equipment are actually looking after their people, right? So you're doing your audits. And of course, healthier planet metrics, generic things from energy consumption to waste to emissions to pollution, not just of the facility itself, but also from the team getting to and from work, right? So that's your scope 3s. So those are sustainability metrics that I'm actually just going to drop as a PDF that you can see. But a couple of areas that you might find interesting. So based on the same things that I mentioned before. So with operational excellence, well, when you're operating, you're generating waste. So you're going to see certain sustainability metrics like waste elimination goals are met, emission goals are met, and financial metrics are met. Because when you're saving on energy and water, you're saving money. And likewise with waste, because you might have packaging or circularized things that you're using before, so you're not buying things over and over and over again. So, and then on the form of brand positioning, some metrics that you probably expect to see are members participating in sustainability related programs, like they're joining fundraising runs. The percentage of gym members aware of the sustainability efforts, for example. Brand favorability and perception metrics. Do they actually think that you're more sustainable than other offers or not? Or if you're actually keeping true to your vision and mission. And then coming into the milestones, this is just like with your existing commercial milestones that you might have year by year, you would have sustainability milestones that you'd like to reach. So for example, you might, as a part of the franchise strategy, is to launch a gym business sustainability course. So how do gyms become more sustainable? Have a whole course ready for that. So when you sell the franchise, you've actually got IP that's yours that buffs up the brand value. But in order to reach there, you need to have reached acceptable level of sustainability yourself. You would have had to engage with stakeholders and running programs and iterating on those programs yourself. And you would have needed to have conducted a baseline audit on your waste, on your emissions, on your water, on community outcomes as well. So here's the example of how you wrap or infuse sustainability into your existing commercial strategy. There's an additional metrics that come out. There are specific sustainability milestones that you got to reach. And there are interpretations of the things that you're doing or the things that you represent specifically with a sustainability context as well. That is both commercially beneficial and also good for people. So without further ado, I'll see you in the next video.